It's modern, it's bottle conditioned, it's proper. Today we're drinking Proper Job. Hi guys, it's Jim here from Dr. Tankenstein with another episode of Beers of the British Isles. On today's episode, we're going to be drinking Proper Job, a Cornish IPA from St Austell Brewery. I got this for £2 from the co-op, and if this beer is as good as the brewery seem to think it is, it's going to be worth every single penny. Now, I said that this was a Cornish IPA. The brewery say it's an IPA, a modern IPA, shall I say, but it won the Best Bitter Award, the SIBA Best Bitter Award. So SIBA are this organisation, the Society for Independent Brewers Association, that doesn't make sense. Society for Independent Brewers, anyway, that along those lines. And it won the Best Bitter Award. So IPA and Best Bitter, I guess, can be similar in certain circumstances, but for what they're selling this beer as, I'm not sure I would expect it to taste like that. Anyway, they sell it as a modern IPA, a Cornish IPA, like I said. It's 5.5% in the bottle. If you get it on keg, or I think on cask, you can get it as well, it's only 4.5%. Which is weird that they would bump it up a whole percent to sell in bottles. I'm not sure why they would do that. Maybe it's a tax thing again. That's where my mind always goes to. So 5.5%. The only IBU information we have is that it's 4 out of 5 hop emojis on the St Austell website. So that seems quite bitter to me. I don't have any comparison there, but 4 out of 5 seems quite bitter. And it uses American hops, so maybe that's where we're getting the modern IPA from. So the hops that this uses are Cascade, Chinook, and Willamette. It's always great to see Willamette getting a little run out there, because you don't really see it anymore. It used to be super popular, especially in homebrew circles. It seems to have dropped off a little bit nowadays, but I do like Willamette. It's nice and kind of it's almost like a piney, like a grassy piney kind of, that side of Cascade. I think it was one of the parents of Cascade, actually, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. So Willamette, Cascade, Chinook hops. So that's what I'm expecting. What I'm kind of expecting with this is that it's going to be very much an English IPA, so quite bitter, quite bready and malty, not so sweet, but then it's going to have kind of a piney hop aroma because of the dry hopping techniques used in English IPAs, I guess. But there's only one way to find out what it's actually going to be like, and that's to get in there. Okay, we're in the glass. It's nice and cold. One thing I forgot to mention earlier on the first part of the video there is that this is bottle conditioned. It very clearly says it on the label, so I guess that's fine. And there are sort of instructions on the back on how to pour a bottle conditioned beer. I'm not a fan of buying a bottle conditioned beer. I think I've been homebrewing for so long and been kind of so ashamed to give people beer with sediment in it. If you get a commercial beer with sediment in it, it's just not my cup of tea, really. And like for me, I mean, I've poured that out now. You could probably maybe see that there's about 2 fingers of the beer left after I've filled my glass there, and I'm just not going to drink that because it's all that sediment's kind of churned up now, and it won't do you any harm. But I'm just not a big fan of picking stuff out of my beer. Other people love it. St Austell, I'm sure they love it. Just my opinion. Right, okay, so we're in the glass. It's nice and cold. Well carbonated, nice and clear, no head. and I'm not blaming my glass for that because it was never there to begin with. So no head, not a good start, but the color's nice. It's kind of on the deeper side of the IPA, which kind of makes me believe it might be going to be this kind of English style with American hops, as I said. So yeah, so the color, I guess you could probably see it there. The glass is kind of frosting over a little bit. The color's kind of a pale gold, we'll say. Yeah, the hop aroma is, as I guessed, it's sort of grassy on the piney side, more grassy than piney, I would say myself. Yeah, kind of unremarkable, the hop aroma, if I'm honest. It just has that huge grass note to it. One word sprung to mind instantly: beery. This just tastes like a beer. It tastes exactly what you would imagine a beer to taste like. It's good. Really, I mean, if this is 4 out of 5 hop emojis, I'd hate to see what a 5 out of 5 hop emojis is. This is really quite bitter. Really clings to the back of your mouth there after you've finished. Not in a bad way. I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, but really is quite bitter. Yeah, and what that's doing to the palate is just really cleaning it up. So there is a maltiness to it. There is definitely a nice maltiness to it, but that bitterness just comes and sweeps it right away. So it's not cloying. It doesn't kind of linger in your mouth. It's quite a nice. I was going to say it's efficient, but that doesn't quite make sense. It is nice and malty. The bitterness clears it away. The hop flavors that I'm getting, considering the hops that they've used here, I would probably gather they use much more Willamette than they've used Cascade and Chinook, because, or maybe the Chinook is actually because it is quite an earthy hop character, quite grassy. Like I said, with the aromas, quite grassy. So too is the flavor. Yeah, but well put together. Well put together, I think is the right way to do it. Is the right way to say this. Whether it's a modern IPA or not, I'm not too sure on that. I'll hold my judgment on that one. But it's good color, pour head, nicely carbonated, well bittered, all round quite well balanced. Right, St. Austell, the brewery behind this bottle conditioned beer from Cornwall, Cornish IPA, they're from Cornwall, kind of proudly, as everybody from Cornwall seems to be. They're really proud that they're from Cornwall. They were founded in 1851 and the brewery remains 100% family owned. And I always think when you see, I'm sure it is the same family, but I always think with that, would be kind of a gimmick to just say it's 100% family owned and it's just like a different family bought the brewery. I'm sure that's not the case. 1851. This is a very traditional brewery, and I don't think they tried to hide it. You see other breweries of this same ilk, other, let's say, maybe perhaps seaside breweries around the country that were kind of traditional, cask and bottle conditioned brewers, dipping their toe into the craft market. I don't think that's what these guys are doing. They've got their proper job done properly. That's what they want to do, and that's cool. And I think that it shows with how this beer is put together. This is kind of a day out brewery. You go. There's a restaurant at the brewery. There's almost like a little museum. You can do tours and things like that. Visitors center, that kind of thing. So that's what we're dealing with here. Quite a cool statistic is that since they were founded in 1851, they've sold almost 2 billion pints of beer. I'm assuming beer. 2 billion pints, that's a lot of pints. That is a real lot of pints. So good on you, St Austell. I was hoping, before all this kicked off, I was hoping to visit this brewery in person in July. So I mean, fingers crossed for that, but I'm not sure I'll be seeing you in July, St Austell. All right then, let's sum this up. Have St Austell done a proper job with this beer? So I said initially bottle conditioned, not my favorite, but some people are very into that. So if you are, check this one out. The color is great. You know, it's what you'd expect for an English IPA. You know, on the deeper side of yellow. My first album. Yeah, deeper side of yellow in colour, very clear, very nice to see a clear beer coming out of this bottle. Although, of course, if you were to shake it up, I guess it wouldn't be clear anymore. You would have that kind of particulate in there. So don't do that. Head retention is quite disappointing, if I'm honest. Aroma. Okay, so now that the beer's warmed up slightly, I'm starting to get Cascade poking through a little bit. I'm starting to get... There is still that grassy note, but that grapefruit is starting to come through from the Cascade. And it's actually quite pleasant. So maybe I jumped to conclusions there earlier. Yeah. It's just a nice kind of... It kind of takes me... It takes me back to being a kid, you know, like sneaking a sip of your dad's lager or whatever. Because it's got that, and I think it's that sort of grassy bitterness that it has, because it is well bittered. Like, remember, it is 4 out of 5 hop emojis bitter, and that sits really well. Like I say, there is a maltiness to it, not really much sweetness, but there is a maltiness to it. The bitterness just really helps to clean away. But while the two are in there together, it's really spot on. The hop flavors. Hop flavors are on that grassy, piney side. The earthy hop flavors, probably from, like I say, the Chinook and the Willamette. I mean, I'm not going to guess how it was brewed because I'll be dead wrong and embarrass myself. But yes, that's what it is. Color's great. Head retention's disappointing. Well carbonated. On the palate, it's beautifully bittered to off-balance that malt character. Hops, earthy, spicy, piney hop flavor. I like this. This is just a real good drinking beer. That being said, I'm gonna have to throw a little bit of shade here. If this beer were a song, and maybe if you were looking for a song to listen to whilst you were drinking this beer, I'd have to say it's 20th Century Boy by T-Rex. Because when that song was written, 20th Century Boy might have been a cool kind of modern man about town. And when this beer was brewed, maybe it was a modern IPA. But unfortunately nowadays, though it's a good beer, it's definitely not modern. St Austell, I don't think that you can market this as a modern IPA anymore. Yes, it's transatlantic. Yes, it's an English IPA with an American accent with the hops. But I don't think it's modern. It's just really good. So on that recommendation, on that note, definitely head down to, I don't know, the Co-op, Tesco, Asda, wherever you do your shopping, wherever beers are sold, I'm sure you'll be able to go and pick yourself up a proper job Cornish IPA by St Austell. And the good news is, if you like this beer, there are millions of others out there. Get yourself down to your local bottle shop, brewery, corner shop even, and, well, maybe not corner shop, but say that you want an English IPA, a modern, tell them you want a modern IPA and see what they give you. Until then, guys, cheers.